Hi, everyone, and welcome to Backchat. Welcome to Yoga Berry, your yoga for scoliosis community. It's been a while, right? We've had a little bit of a break. It's been very, very busy in the Yoga Berry world, but I've got some great interviews lined up for you over the next few weeks. So thank you so much for joining right now. I can see there's a few of you joining in already. So if you want to say hi in the chat, feel free to do that. Let us know where you are. Let us know if you've got any questions about scoliosis, about exercising with scoliosis, about yoga with scoliosis, and we'll try to help, obviously. So before I bring on my guest, I just wanted to let everyone know, some of you know that I'm based just outside of London, and I've actually got an in-person workshop coming up on the 17th of July. So for anyone who who's maybe in the area and who can get themselves to Surrey, that's where it's going to be in East Molesey. And we'll have a full day of yoga for scoliosis, 11 to 5 p.m. And it will be a great opportunity to get together, obviously, as well, and meet some others who are in the same boat, who've got scoliosis, who are working with scoliosis. So I'll put all the details into the description as always. But let me introduce my guest for today. So we've got the lovely Helena Weiner, and she is a very inspiring young lady. She's a yoga teacher herself. She does all sorts of other things as well, which she's going to tell us about. And she will tell us about her scoliosis journey, obviously, as well. And I'm hoping to get some good insights here. So there she is. Hi, Helena.
Hi.
Good. So whereabouts are you right now, Helena?
So I'm based in London, not too far from you, as we know, probably about 30 minutes from you. So southwest London area.
Yes. And you kind of teach in the area as well.
Yeah.
Or a little bit all over London.
Yeah, mainly teaching in southwest London, but also teaching online to all over the world, really.
Yes, that's how it's going right now, right? It's definitely heading that way. Good. So we've obviously worked together a few years back. So I know a little bit about your scoliosis story, but maybe you can tell everyone about your journey with scoliosis, when it kind of all started, when was the word scoliosis mentioned to you first, and how did it kind of go from there?
Yeah. So prior to my diagnosis, never heard of the word before, nor had my parents. So it was all brand new. Nobody in the family, we weren't really aware of it. But I was in hospital at the time being treated for pneumonia, and I was 14. And when you're being treated, they often put the little stethoscope up against the back to listen to your lungs and things. And that's when they initially noticed the curvature of the spine. But at that time, this sort of focus was something else. So I think they subtly said to my parents, you should probably get this checked when she's better. So when I was better, that's when I was taken in for x-rays. And that's when we heard the word. That was sort of the initial start of my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were sent to a specialist not far from where we lived, who sort of took one look at me and said, surgery. And at the time I was a 14-year-old aspiring dancer. So it was quite, it was a crushing realization to hear that from a specialist.
Yeah.
But I was thankful that my parents went to get a second opinion in central London.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to go see a second specialist who said, I would not recommend surgery in the slightest. You have no pain. Posturally, I was looking quite good despite the curvature. My hips are level, my shoulders are level. So he was like, no way, we'll monitor you. which they did for the next few years. And then when they thought I was skeletally mature, they sort of sent me on my way, and here I am.
Mm.
So
So you did have regular kind of checkups then, but nothing else, no other kind of treatments or anything?
no. So I would go in. I'm not sure how many. There weren't many checkups. I went in the next couple of years. I was seen less than a handful of times, and yeah, I was just sent on my way. They just said keep doing what you're doing. And then it wasn't for quite a few years later, when I was already dancing professionally, that I thought I haven't had a X-ray in a long time, and I don't know, where I'm at. So it was only not too long before I met you, Christine, that or maybe even when I met you, I went back to get another X-ray to be like,
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
where
Yeah.
am I now? I've been dancing all these years. I don't know, what it looks like, and it had progressed. So that was like a informative moment for me, because I was always told, right, you're skeletally mature, it's not going to get any worse. And then it did. So that's when I was like, that's when I sort of not took it into my own hands, but that's when I really started to hammer down mentally and think, right, it's up to me now to keep myself as strong as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my journey.
Mm. So do you remember the Cobb angle? So do you remember how severe the scoliosis was when you were first diagnosed and then to where it progressed?
Yeah, so I think initially it was about 35, and then it went up. I think it was around 38 when
Right.
they said you're grown now, you're skeletally mature. And then when I went back a few years ago, it was 40 something,
Yeah.
around 44. I can't remember but it had progressed. So I'm somewhere.
By a few degrees, like 5 degrees or
Yeah,
something, wasn't it?
I'm sort of around, last time I checked, mid 40s ish. Um, but yeah, it'd been such a long gap between the two X-rays. I don't know, what period of time we're talking about. So yeah, that's the approximate timeline.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm with your permission, I'm gonna share this X-ray obviously because I think it's always good for people to see. So this was the latest X-ray, right?
Yes, that one was. So I think that one was around 38. That one you've got in front of you.
Right. Okay.
So yeah.
So it was the earlier one then. It wasn't the
So
progressed one.
so this is sort of the middle one, which is
Right.
out of the three I mentioned, that's around 38, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. But just to what I always find very interesting from my perspective as working with people is like um, you've got this bit at the top which is super straight, and then you've got this bit at the bottom which is quite straight as well. There's maybe a little bit of a curve, but not much. And then you've got this quite significant curvature in the middle, isn't it? So this is probably why you're so great at like hiding it in a way
Mm, yeah,
because
yeah,
you're so balanced at the top and at the bottom, isn't it?
yeah. No, it's a funny one, definitely.
Mm.
Yeah.
So how would you say what did this all mean to you as a dancer? So you obviously said you were an aspiring dancer. Were you thinking of like I'm gonna be, I don't know, be on the stage, I'm gonna be a professional dancer? Was that kind of the plan?
Yeah. So from a young age, right through to my first diagnosis at 14, that was sort of, I was always very tunnel visioned. That's what I'm going to do. And then there was obviously the momentarily blip when I thought, oh no, is that possible for me?
Yeah.
And particularly when they were saying the word surgery, I was thinking, oh, Um, but as I got older, and started auditioning for various vocational schools and training, I sort of just kept going. and I would always have these physical examinations before being allowed to train.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always picked up by the physios and things, but it was always, yeah, kind of a reason for me to just not prove anybody wrong, but maybe myself. I don't know, but it was never a reason for me to stop being so tunnel visioned. As I said, I had
Mm-hmm.
that momentary blip when I was like, oh no. But then when we got the second opinion and he said, no, you're good to go, I was like, right. I was like, let's go. So then I sort of, yeah, it's funny when you talk about it on a timeline because it just seems so linear. But then I went through the rest of my training, graduated, and then I went into the industry. Had a couple of years in the industry. Then we had COVID, and then we became a yoga teacher. So yeah, I had some time in the industry, but it was interrupted with COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And do you ever feel that there was anything that you weren't able to do, or maybe that was harder for you than for other people?
So short answer, no. I didn't ever feel I was at a disadvantage. Um, Looking back, I probably had to try harder, um, muscularly, because there's some things with the anatomy when you're turning, for example, and you're not completely symmetrical. You know, you've got this massive asymmetry in your body. When you're turning, like turning on a top, it's much harder than someone who was completely symmetrical. But I
Yeah.
sort of always balanced that in my mind by thinking it's so rare to meet an individual who is 100% symmetrical. We all have slightly different, you know, someone's might have a tightness in their right hip, which throws them off a little bit, or you know, someone might have an asymmetric shoulder from carrying a bag on one. So scoliosis or not, I think it's quite rare to find someone who just in that particular industry, things don't come to you easily, whether you've got scoliosis or not. You
Mm-hmm.
have to work hard, and that was always sort of
Right.
my view. I never felt at a disadvantage. I was just
Mm.
working as hard as the person next to me. But looking back muscularly, I probably was having to compensate, but it wasn't that noticeable at the time.
Mm. So what do you do now, kind of to manage your scoliosis? Is there anything you do in specifically, or you just kind of forget about it
So
and
as as I'm starting to get older, and particularly when I went back for that latest X-ray where it progressed, I've sort of really started to dive more into scoliosis specific things instead of just a very general fitness, which is what I was used to. I've
yeah.
started to look at things, yeah, probably a little bit more tailored to me and my curve. And there's some things that I just picked up through, well, working with you for one, researching different therapies and really starting to understand um, what my body needs. And a
Right.
huge part of that is intelligent breathing, and it was something
Hmm.
that hasn't really been in my training ever before. But obviously, as someone with scoliosis, we have those areas where we have areas which protrude, and then we have areas which hollow. So breathing into the hollow areas has been, yeah, it's an everyday practice. Lengthening out of my um, lengthening out of my curves is a everyday practice. Um, yeah, it's sort of the small things I do in between.
Mm.
It's
Yes, I remember that. I remember the breathing being kind of like a light bulb moment. So
yeah, the breathing is so powerful. In fact, when I do the breathing, just from breathing, I hear all these cracks. It goes, I hear pops and cracks because
uh-huh.
I've been so hollowed, and then you use that sort of yogi diaphragmatic breath, and I just hear pop, 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 and it's like I'm breathing space into those areas, and I know I am because I can hear the sounds. So yeah, I'm not doing anything huge, no long exercise routine.
Mm.
It's all sort of small, differences, I'm trying to adapt.
Well, there's so many things you do, right? So tell us all the things that you teach right now.
Yeah, so right now I teach various different types of yoga, and I teach hybrid fitness called barre, which is basically a combination of Pilates, yoga, and is inspired by dance. So
Mm-hmm.
that's quite a demanding workout. And yeah, I still dabble in the dance industry. So it's rare I go a day without moving, but I'll be always the first one to say, scoliosis or not, we've got to keep moving every day. And having always had that mindset, I do feel, yeah, I want to pass that on to everyone. I don't like to think of myself or anyone else any differently, whether you've got a curve or not. I think it's important
Yeah.
for all.
Yes. I don't know if you saw the little BBC thing that we did the other day in Hyde Park. Anyway, it was on BBC yesterday, with Emily from Build and Breathe Pilates as well, and we did like a little exercise session outside. But it was called, so they changed it a little bit, but they changed it to hidden disabilities in London. And I was like, to be honest, I'm not sure about this name. I don't think I like it. And I know why. And I know that some people do feel that it's disabling. And especially, I think, if you've had a spinal fusion. But I don't know. I think for someone like you, I would never say you've got a hidden disability, right? And I don't know. What do you think about this?
I think it's trouble is scoliosis. I guess it's an umbrella, and you've got people
Yes.
who are could be disabled from it, and then you've got people who are functioning every day or don't even know they have it. Which, let's face it, there's a lot of people out there who have it, but they don't know. So to generalize it and say it's a disability, it's not a disability to my life, and lots of other people's lives, but then again, it is to others. So it's just a blanket term, isn't it? I guess the important thing is to not let it define you, or if you're functioning totally fine in every way possible, you mustn't. If someone says you've got a hidden disability, if you don't feel you've got a disability, you don't. It's how you feel at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I'm sure
Absolutely.
there's lots of people out there who don't feel it as well as people that do.
So do you, if you're kind of like thinking back to the time when you were diagnosed and you could kind of meet little Helena from back then now, what advice would you give her?
Oh, probably just that everything was going to be fine, and that it wasn't the end of your career, nor the end of my training hadn't even started. I went on to go do all that 2 years later, so I hadn't even started really. So I guess I'd go back and say, A, if you stay headstrong, anything is possible. And B, everything's going to work out.
Yeah. Oops. Just playing around here with it. With the screen.
I guess hindsight's a wonderful thing, because the emotions you feel at that time are very valid and they're true to you. But yeah, it would have been nice to have my future self tell me, hang on, everything's going to be okay.
Yes.
So it's nice. It's nice just to know one day I might look back at my current self and say the same. So I guess it's quite, it's a calming thought. But yeah, at the time it was like a horrible thing to go through. I think particularly because so many people do get diagnosed in that sort of puberty era,
which is so difficult anyway, right? Without scoliosis.
your whole everything's changing. So that sprinkle on top is always going to be tough as well
Yeah.
for lots of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the whole, so has it ever, like from an aesthetic point of view, because obviously you're also you work, you're a model, you work with your body, there's photographs being taken of you. Has that ever kind of played a role for you?
Yes, yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely something I'm aware of. So I mean, as you say, like it's largely aesthetics, what I do. It's largely about the way I look and the way I move and the way I position myself in the dance and modeling industry. So yeah, it definitely plays on my mind. But it's one of those things which I'm sort of fortunate enough to be able to manipulate, where I'm so um, bodily aware.
Hmm.
I sort of can recognize where I am in space and where I sort of shift myself in space. So it's
Do you
um,
do you have any tips for posing for photographs with scoliosis?
um,
Is there like, do you only show one side, or do you turn always a specific way or anything like this?
I don't think so. I mean, I think the biggest thing to remember is what's going on in your head is not going.
Right.
You'll always be your own biggest critic. So
Yeah.
whatever you're thinking in your head at that time, the majority of the people won't even notice.
Yeah.
So it's an important thing not to get too hung up on how you think you're being perceived and how you
Yeah.
think you look, because so often someone's not going to have a clue. Um,
Mm,
so yeah.
yeah,
Notice,
I love that.
just remember that you probably care a lot more than anyone else.
Mm,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah. But is there anything you do in terms of like, well, when you're just standing, it's very hard to tell, obviously. So you're probably not the best example for this. But if you've got any advice for anyone where it is maybe a little bit
yeah,
more visible.
yeah. As in how to stand confidently, or
Yes, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the thing is, if I guess that's why movement practices like yoga are just so valuable, because where it might all be completely brand new to you, and some people, might be a bit hesitant to try it. What it does give you is awareness of where
Hmm.
your body is in space, awareness of how to hold yourself. And that awareness isn't just in yoga. You take that awareness to the bus station, you take that awareness to the supermarket, and you start to recognize where you are. So if you are sort of one shoulder's in, you feel yourself rounding, you start to recognize those patterns and you can control it actively. It takes a lot of mental time, but the more you do it, the more subconscious it becomes. So I guess,
Mm,
I mean, it sounds like the pictures are just having your picture taken is just one example of a way that you could just remind yourself, I'm falling into it there. But
yeah.
that's why movement practices are so important, because otherwise, how do you know if you're slouching, or how do you know if you're falling into your curves? It's a practice, right? Like
Mm,
we always have to think about it. Because yeah, I don't know if I would be so bodily aware if it wasn't for. I mean, I wouldn't be so bodily aware if it wasn't for all the things I do every single day. So, um, if you need inspiration to start a yoga or Pilates class, that would be it.
mm.
Awareness.
Yes. So is there anything, kind of know what the answer is going to be, but is there anything that you now don't do in your yoga or in your movement practice, not in the dancing, obviously, because that's different again, I feel. But like when you choose things, are there things that where you're like, oh, I'm not doing that?
Well, Largely, the answer is no. However, with twists, in particular seated twists, I'm wary of my natural rotation. And when I say the word wary, it doesn't stop me from doing it. There's one side I don't push into as much.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So with the seated twists, sometimes you can accentuate your scoliosis depending on what direction you are twisting. So it's really important just to be aware what your pattern is. Are you lengthening up and out of the top of the head, like you've got this two-directional pull, or are you slouching, rounding, and then pushing? So with the seated twists, that's definitely one which I'm wary of. I still do it because I enjoy and I get a lot from moving in all planes, but I approach it differently depending on what side doing it.
Yeah.
So I guess the answer is no, I don't not do things. I just approach them differently depending on the side I'm practicing on.
Maybe doing a little bit less, or just doing it with more awareness, right?
Yeah, it's that awareness word again, I think is really important.
Yeah. Because that's definitely what I feel with. So if I'm following just a general yoga class and there is a lot of twisting and I'm just about managing to keep up, if it's quite a fast class, I know I always regret it afterwards.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the twists are the thing that take me personally most out of whack. Because if I don't have the time, or if I don't have if I cannot kind of do them with really full awareness, and that needs slowing down for me personally. But I would agree. I still do them, just maybe not. Well, and I don't really choose them in my home practice, as I feel like my body twists already, right? I don't need to practice it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I probably don't do a huge amount of twisting either. I think that's sort of not a priority. Our priority, I mean, generally is lengthening, and finding that nice sort of traction, that space,
Yeah.
and strengthening, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And where I do it in versions, I just, as you say, it needs to be slowed down. It needs to be really broken apart. And yeah, I like to approach it with a lot more mindfulness than some of the flows I do.
Yeah.
But then you think, how many times a week are you doing that position? How long are you holding for? So yeah, there's a lot of factors to go into it.
Yes, it's definitely a difference. Is it once a week, or is it every day?
Yeah.
There's a difference there. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah.
Good. So any other kind of tips or anything that you can maybe offer to anyone who's maybe just been diagnosed with scoliosis, and who might be kind of in your position of borderline surgery? Maybe you have to have surgery, maybe not. Any advice you could offer?
So from my experience, having more than one consultant look at you, because get multiple those different opinions, because it's one person's opinion at the end of the day which could change your whole future. So I think it's important. Second of which, I guess it's coming back to what we spoke about earlier. If you don't feel disabled by it, don't mentally tell yourself that you're any different. If you're in a lucky enough position where you didn't even notice it hugely in your everyday life, and you don't feel hugely impacted by it, then don't let it define you. But I guess it goes that goes for everyone, whether you get back pain or not. I think as soon as you start letting it get to you mentally or get to your self-esteem, it's just, I feel like it's a bit of a slippery slide. So yeah, I think the top of my list is just to keep moving. And I think sometimes people are scared to do the wrong thing, afraid that it will get worse. But I think the worst thing we can do is not do anything.
Yeah.
You know, even after a long journey, sat down, I'm like, you know, I feel like I'm Tin Man. I feel like I've aged about 50 years. But that only happens when I'm completely sedentary and I haven't done anything. So, and with movement comes increased confidence, increased awareness, better control of your breath. It's all good stuff. It's a domino effect. Top of the list is to move, and yeah, I mean, if they're watching this video, they're already doing something good. They're looking for advice, and they're looking for other people, a community. So yeah, I guess that's it really. Surgically, professionally, get more than one opinion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, obviously, if anybody could find a specialist teacher, even better, to help them.
Yeah, getting as much information as possible, really, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, get a good toolbox.
Yes.
Yeah, get all your tools. But I definitely, I know, obviously, I know how it felt at that time, and it's really, it's scary, and you just don't know what the future holds.
Do you still have those moments where you're like, well, how old are you now?
I'm 25.
25, where you're thinking to, I don't know, 35, 45?
Yeah, definitely. I have thoughts about the menopause when the bone density changes. But I know I've sort of committed myself now to like an everyday practice of movement. Because I don't
you're doing all you can, right?
Yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I know we can do an awful lot with our muscles. So yeah, that's sort of my approach personally.
Absolutely. And I think you're the best example for this, because I mean, I remember that you were disappointed that your curve had increased, but to put it into perspective, it hadn't increased by very much. It was only a few degrees over, I can't remember how long it was.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah. So you've done amazingly well, right? And like controlling it, even though it was kind of borderline surgery, and making sure that, where one person said, "Oh, you need to have surgery," kind of proved them wrong, right?
I'm only at 38 though. I mean, that's, now I'm like, wow,
And maybe they thought there was still a lot of growth
yeah,
left, or
yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good, lovely. So where can people find you? How can they do some yoga with you? Some bar practice or Pilates?
So my sort of most accessible platform is my website, where I normally do about 2 to 3 live Zoom classes a week. And there's a whole host of on-demand classes on there, from restorative yoga, meditation, and then some fiery sort of bar stuff on there as well. So that's all over the website. So yes.
Good. So have you had any students with scoliosis as well, or
Many.
you're kind of?
I've had many come up to me at the start of a class and say, just to let you know, I'm fused, or I've got scoliosis. And I don't always say, oh, me too, but sometimes I do. And I think that's always a comfort to know that you've got a teacher who,
who
knows what we're
understands.
dealing with here. So yeah, people come in all the time. Yeah.
much more common than many people think, right?
Yeah, and I think that should be a great comfort. There's so many people out there. So yeah, no one's. If someone's feeling something, you're absolutely not alone.
No,
There's
absolutely.
a lot of us out there.
A lot of us.
I was like,
Lovely. Thank you so much, Helena. That was
thank you for having me.
great, and always, yeah, very inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you keep in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Stay on. I'm just going to say bye. And yeah, next week we've got Helen from my Pilates tribe, actually. So she's going to talk about Pilates as well. Right. Bye, everyone.